'Twas the night before draft day when all through the league not a GM was sleeping, consumed by their need. The big boards were hung in the war rooms with care in hopes that a franchise cornerstone soon would be there. We are the Draft Sickos, and we are getting ready for a very fun show today. The last show, Jam, before draft day. How are we feeling?
What a phenomenal intro right there. I almost don't want to say anything after to ruin it. Like, it was absolutely perfect, but I'm doing fantastic. It's a little bittersweet, honestly. It's the last pod before, the draft, and we kind of close out this cycle. So bittersweet.
It is bittersweet, but you know what makes me happy, Jam? Rocking with the family. Let's go ahead and rock. We are live here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel. We're also on your podcast player of choice. Jam and I, we're just kicking it today, guys. Today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day. If you're a father, happy Father's Day. If not, happy Father's Day to your father figure, your grandfather, whoever special men in your life are that have helped play a part in your upbringing. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Jam, it's been a fun day here in the household. Speaking of Father's Day, you know I have a million kids. I have homemade. Look at this. I have homemade Father's Day cards. I have a Bluey one.
Incredible.
The ultimate the ultimate standard that can never be reached is Bluey. The dad on the hit TV show Bluey. So I got a Father's Day card to emulate a cartoon dog. As to how I should be on a day-to-day basis, but. It's been a fun day, man. I did work out with the kids today. Already been tinkering on my 2026, 2027
It's time.
board. Yeah, man. How's everything on your end, brother?
It's going pretty good. We had our big boards were peeking behind the curtains that we had big boards do over the weekend. So that was a nice process to kind of put that to bed. Also, we'll talk about it later. A couple of guys that I was like, man, I kind of want to move them up. Maybe I was a coward or not. We'll talk about that. But yeah, it's been great to kind of really wrap things up here, and I couldn't think of a better chance to do that. So very excited.
Yeah, and what we're doing with today's episode, folks, and it's on the thumbnail, it's on the title of the show. Not a big secret behind anything behind the title. This is our final thoughts. Jam and I, we were talking about what we want to discuss today. And again, it's very hair down. So just to have something that we can kind of like have some sort of structure for, Jam and I, we're bringing three guys that we feel like we might be a little too low on coming into draft day. And then a couple of guys who we might be a little high on. But Jam, I know that you wanted to make this an interactive show as well.
Yeah, for sure. With the last one before we get to draft time, answer some questions that come in the chat. We traditionally do that as we go anyway, but definitely make sure we get to as many as possible by the time we get to the end of the show.
Yeah, so if you have any questions regarding the 2026 NBA draft in terms of order, trades, what I think Giannis is going to do, is there I was on a Detroit Pistons podcast the other day, Jam, and I gave my thoughts on, Tyler Hero potentially getting traded to the team. So a lot of different things that could be happen. Yep, Brick Rip Saul in the chat. Yep, Bret Hart jacket. I always wear it, Jam. I'm good for a comment. Anywhere I go in public, I'm always good for a comment with this bad boy. It's my favorite jacket. I've never really been a pink guy either, but it is what it is. Tough guys wear pink, I guess. Shout out Bret Hart. But yeah, so if you have any comments or anything like that, please feel free to drop them in. If you got questions about the prospects that we're talking about, as always, you got questions, we have answers. Antoine Willis in the chat already says, "What's up, y'all? You watching any of the World Cup?" I'm not a big soccer guy, Jam. I'm not gonna yuck other people's yum, but like even big soccer games, just not for me, man. Like if it's not basketball or football, I'm typically doing something else with the family. How about you, brother?
Yeah, definitely been plugged into the World Cup. This is, I think for me, it's always an exciting time to kind of watch some soccer, and I kind of casually watch it throughout the year as a fan, but this time it's been a lot of fun. I was watching Uruguay and was it Cabo Verde as well? They were playing today.
I believe you. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. So was rooting for our boy Ignacio. So was tuned
There you
in for
go.
that.
Yeah, and Antoine in the chat asked, "Do I like Owen Hart?" Yeah, I don't know of anybody who was like, have you ever
So
heard that?
underrated. The Blue
Yeah,
Blazer.
have you ever heard anybody be like, "Nah, not an Owen Hart guy"? Have you ever
I
heard that?
haven't, and I would be
Me
very
either.
wary of them if they were. Come on, man! Like just fantastic wrestler ahead of his time.
Oh, and shout out to Antoine. You know, my in-state brother in Centennial Olympic Park is flooded. Steven is crazy. I'm here right now. Shout out to Atlanta doing it right
Yes.
during the World Cup. A-Town down, right? All right, so Jam, let's get started, dude. Do you want to start with guys that we feel like we might be too low on, too high? Do you want to sprinkle it in? Like, this is how much preparation Jam and I've done for this, by the way.
Let's start with too high.
Okay, too high. So I have two names, Jam. I think you got a couple as well. Why don't you kick us off? Why don't you be the downer to start the show? Who is it that you feel like you might be a little too high on?
For me, it's Labaron Philon. I love Philon, and we've talked about previously. Like, I don't feel like the gap between him and Kingston Flemings is that large. And actually, on my board, I have Flemings at 10, and I have Labaron at 11. And this honestly, when I led into the pod of talking about like I was a little bit of a coward. I even put Labaron for a couple minutes and looked at it ahead of Flemings at 10 and 11. And then I went back and I put Kingston back at 10. But you tweeted about the weight. That's something that's been very concerning. That's like I said, that's something that I've wrestled with and trying to think like, come on, like the weight, but really like the tape. You got a great comment about that. I saw some really good stuff with that because I think this is worth bringing up now. And like, I just thought LeBaron, the speed, the quickness, obviously the jump shot improvement from three, the pull up stuff. I think there's some more defensive stuff to his game that we saw more of his freshman and the sophomore year as he took a bigger load, of course, in the sophomore year. But I think there's just so much there. I don't think the difference is that drastic between him and Flemings, but the weight obviously is the biggest issue there. So it's kind of want to get your thoughts on that. Am I too high on Philon, or where do you kind of fall with that?
I mean, I have him 15, and I'm somebody who's actually come up on him, like even in light of the comment, like I've
Okay.
still have him up on my board because I do understand the way that he navigates pick and roll. I know the
Hmm.
speed. I'm understanding of the fact that he was a good defensive playmaker in his first year, and that if you get the freshman and sophomore season kind of combined, you got a really good prospect, right?
Yeah.
He improved as a 3-point shooter. That's something that he did to close the stretch last year as a freshman, and then all throughout the year, very, very consistent. I think some of the concerns are valid. And look, like some people almost took it personal that I made that post. I just think that it's good information to know, right? And it
Sure.
wasn't just. And for people who don't know, at Stephen G Hoops, Stephen with the letter PH, the letter G, and then Hoops. Over on Twitter, I made a post that said combine participants who weighed in under 180 pounds this year, and that was LeBaron Philon, obviously, but also Braden Smith, and gosh, it was one more person. I can't remember who it was. I don't think it's anybody that we were really got to worry about getting drafted. But there
Yeah.
were three people. And
Hmm.
then I just listed everybody who weighed in 180 pounds over the last 10 combines. That's excluding John Morant because he didn't weigh in his combine, right? And then at the top of the list, had De'Aaron Fox, had Trey Young, Ryan Rollins. But then it starts getting really, really slippery after that. And to me, when I look at that, I'm like, even the top guys on that list, Jam, are all on other teams. Like, that's really what stood out to me is like, even guys who made all-star teams and made Eastern Conference finals or the finals this year, like they all are on second teams. And that kind of worries me a little bit. And then I watch the finals and that worries me a little bit. And then I look at the year prior, right? So this year, Philon weighed in at 176 pound. He
Hmm.
also weighed in at the combine last year, Jam, And between his freshman and sophomore year, he only gained 2 pounds, right? So it's the trend analysis in conjunction with the threshold that he has to kind of cross for me. That's why I'm not as high up as I see some other people are. Some people are like, take him at 10, take him at 8, take him, within the top 10. And I understand that just based on the film. Like his film is admittedly right up there at the tippy top of the list of prospects that I listed that weighed in under that weight. But it's just hard for me to get that out of my head that even the top players under that list, eventually, like the teams that drafted him moved on from him.
Yeah, and then Trey Young's case, I think there was more of a situation where it's kind of run its course. But with that, I'm not saying it's going to be Trey Young or anything like that. But Trey Young, if I'm not mistaken, Eastern Conference Finals as well. So there were some deep playoff runs where he was leading the team. And so I feel like if you can get even if he's going to like be on the second team, whether if it's like year 7 or 8, if you are getting out of that first contract, maybe half of the second one, some really good value there, even if you have to trade them, like I still think that's worth it. And I believe it was Dirty Dancer was talking about how Philon's his favorite shot maker in the class. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. Like I love a lot of the shot making stuff. And early in the season, I think maybe after the first couple games, I was texting Steven. I was just like, hey, man, if Philon is going to keep shooting like this, I'm definitely going to have him in the lottery for sure. And he really didn't slow down. So that's one of the biggest reasons that I do have him at 11. Outside of the strength, I don't see too many weaknesses. Obviously, you would want to be a little bit taller as your lead guard and stuff like that. But there's not many things that he doesn't do.
And if we're looking at measurables, I've all of a sudden, Jam, have become completely anthro-pilled. I don't know what's wrong with me, right? Like I'm looking at the measurables a lot recently. And the thing that does give me hope with Labaron, and one of the reasons why I moved him up, is because the guys who weighed in 180 pounds that succeeded all have good wingspans, and Labaron has an exceptional wingspan. Yep. So I think that helps him with his ability to absorb contact and even finish through it, because he can kind of almost extend those arms and finish with creativity and at least draw a foul, if not get an and one in those situations. Some people also kind of knock him a little bit, Jam, with like, is he just a product of Nate Oates' offensive scheme? And maybe, but I think that Nate Oates runs a very NBA friendly scheme. Like I don't know of any NBA team that he's going to go to that's not going to utilize spread pick and roll action.
Exactly. And I wonder if he showed a little bit more of the defensive stuff that he did freshman or sophomore year, if there would be a little bit more love for him, or maybe it's just strictly the weight. But I see him being an impact player, whether it's going to be your starter or one of your better guards off the bench.
Yeah, and he was drawing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comparisons throughout the year, just like being a smaller variant of him because of the way that he moves, that herky-jerky action, the ability to kind of like let the court almost sort of move around him. He's like a, very good counter boxer in that regard, where he can just use the momentum of the defense against them. What do you make of the playmaking? Because I think the scoring is there, but maybe that's another aspect of his game that people might be a little bit lower on. I don't think that he's a bad playmaker by any means, but do you think that it's translatable to the NBA? Does that kind of like impact him as a pure point guard, or is he more just like a scoring tilted guard in a sense, like almost kind of like a Buko Okori, or how he's perceived anyway?
I like the comp with those guys, two guys that could get downhill and make plays, scoring or creating for others. I do like the passing more than Okori. Obviously, playmaking numbers, that skill set is just not about the numbers. He did average 5 assists per game, though, doing a lot out of pick and roll and transition, spray outs, and things like that. So I fully trust him as a playmaker. Is he the most advanced playmaker in the class? I wouldn't say so. I like Michael Brown is a better playmaker than him. Maybe Fleming slightly better playmaker than Philon, but I have no concerns about his playmaking.
Okay, I think that's fair. Jam, I'll go ahead and start with mine unless you had any other comments on Labaron. And I saw it earlier in the chat. Let me see if I can scroll up and find it. Dirty Dancer, Mara, way too high. Dirty Dancer, I have him 9th on my board right now.
This is going to be a good one. I have him 17.
Okay, so talent-wise, I think I'm justified by having him as a top 10 guy. You know, like you look at the success rate recently of these gargantuan big men that are coming in to the NBA. I think that he is very supremely talented. I think the playmaking is there. People are almost being like, yeah, the passing is overrated. No way. Like, you have to be able to play make as a center in the NBA. Like, it's almost a requisite now, right, Jim? Like, if you cannot make good reads with the ball in your hand as a big man in the NBA, you're probably coming off the bench and you're probably like a 12 to 15 minute per game playmaker, you know, just like play finisher. It's really hard to get by in the NBA if you cannot pass. He rebounds really well too. Like, the putback stuff is awesome. I think that he looks good in that regard. And look, I'm seeing like Brick Ripsaw can't move laterally and has no gas tank. I couldn't disagree with that more. You know, Jam, like I put up on Twitter a clip of him, and it's so fitting that we're following him up with Labaron Philon, but I put up a clip of him like switching out in open space because people like Brick Ripsaw, I think, are playing basketball and they're looking at, and I love you, Brick Ripsaw. I'm just using your comment as an example, by the way. I'm not ripping you here. But people look at Aday Mara and just like, oh, lumbering big man, I'm going to pull him take advantage of him out in open space. He was awesome, like being able to defend out in space in moments, right? Like Labaron Philon, one of the best playmakers. We've just got done praising him, right? Like one of the best ball handlers, one of the quickest dudes, can get to the paint, scores with efficiency around the basket. He took Aday Mara out in open space and tried to just have his way with Mara. Mara wasn't having it. Like, he blocked his shot on the perimeter, stayed dancing with them. So like he kind of falls victim to like, oh, big man moves slow. No, I couldn't disagree with that more. But Dirty Dancer, again, right on point. My man, Dirty Dancer. Can he play 20 minutes per game? I haven't thought about the minute stuff with him, to be completely honest with you. Like, that's something that I just like don't typically consider when it comes to projecting athletes. But I think that it's an apt question to ask, and it's really been starting to circulate like right up coming into draft day. And that's where I am, Jam. Like, I think that you could probably get him to like, what big man is playing greater than like even Victor Wembanyama when he gets to 30 minutes, like he's struggling. You know what I mean? So I don't know too many big men that are playing like ridiculous minutes, maybe other than Nikola Jokic, but I think that the minutes concern with me is kind of realistic. And if you are concerned about how long he can play in a game and you're not really viewing him as like the cornerstone of a rebuilding brick within your top 10, then is he worthy of being picked that high? Like, that's what I'm kind of wrestling with right now.
Yeah, man, it's a lot to kind of tackle there. He's actually a guy that I'm afraid I'm maybe a little bit too low on because of what the upside
I
is
love this.
as a defender. But to kind of really split the difference with you and Brick Ripsaw, like he he has mobility, but he's not a guy, despite some of the moments that he's shown on tape, that I'm trusting in space. Like, for me, he is purely a drop defender. I don't want him switching. I don't really want him hedging and recover or playing at the level. Maybe at certain moments you can kind of show that to switch it up, but that's not going to, for me, I don't see that being a huge part of the defensive versatility that he could potentially provide. And I do consider the minutes played and projecting that a lot, but mostly that is really for bigs. And in Mara's case, conditioning has always been the issue since he's come over here. So if you're telling me he's going to be a guy that's going to be a dominant rim protector, who's only going to play like 15 to 20 minutes, he's going to be a starter. Like, when we talked about him prior, my thing is like, I don't necessarily think he's going to be an all NBA caliber defender. Not to say he has to actually make the team. I understand that's dominated, especially at the center spot, by Wembanyama and Gobert, of course, foreseeable future. But can he be considered like, oh man, he was snubbed or he's right there? If it wasn't for Victor, if it wasn't for Rudy, he would be right there. I think that's the type of impact defensively he has to provide to be able to be taken in that top 10. And I just can't get there. Like I said, I could be wrong, and we'll see. And if that is the case, then 17 is way too low, for a real defensive anchor.
Yeah, and I understand I'm moving 2K sliders right now by asking you this question, Jam, but like, what if I told you that coming into the league that he's going to get to a point where he can play 28 to 32 minutes a game?
I would say, man, like whatever he got on, we need to package that and get to other people. That would be incredible. Like I would be very surprised that he got there. My ideal type of hope for him is in that 25 minutes per game type of area. Like I understand that he may not be out there in long spurts. Maybe it's kind of get him in, get him out, and he's kind of like in and out. Um, Let me just ask you this question.
Sure.
What do you think the gap is between him and Ugana Onyenso purely as shot blockers? And I understand the offensive stuff. You'd rather have that from Mara for sure, but just far
Yeah.
as the defensive end.
And the defensive end, I don't think that it's particularly too far away. I just think that Mara is bigger, and I think that helps a little bit. But in terms of like blocking shots, I'd say that there might be even like it's pretty close. Like I don't think that it's too far away just in terms of blocking shots.
And that's why I would kind of like wait. Like I would say I would rather have Onyenso, but it's just the passing is absolutely phenomenal for Mara. I just wish that it was a little bit more kind of hub stuff, live dribble stuff. And that could really just be me nitpicking. You have a guy that's, well over 7 feet that can pass out of the post, box and elbows, do DHO stuff. There is short roll upside. So maybe that's me nitpicking, but I think if he had like more of this live dribble stuff, of like, all right, like this is like he can attack some open space, he can do this and that, and then I could probably get higher with them because of what's on the offensive end.
Yeah, and I think the passing feel is good. Like even just like take out the outlet, the full court, darts that he was just throwing in transition. I do value that, right? And I do value the shooting projection with him a little bit. Like I'm not drafting him as a shooter, but like if I'm looking at him relative to other bigs, I do think that there is a real shot that he could develop into a respectable shooter to where like you can't just like leave him alone. And that frees up your offense so much as well, right? So I look at that and that does mean something to me, but yeah, like I don't know, 9 starting to, I mean, I've submitted my last big board for the group. I might tinker around and just like have a last saved round and move them down a little bit, but I don't think I'm moving them out of lottery. Like, I mean, once I get past 14, like I don't feel particularly great about someone just having like an overall better case for Mara. So like I could see myself moving him down, but I don't think that I can move him down outside the lottery.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm hoping that there's going to be more offensive stuff for him to utilize. Maybe that he's going to be like a real advantage post score. Like there are switches and he does have touch, hit the jump hook with both hands and things he can work with. I think the footwork is adequate. So I think there's still some more offensive upside if he can kind of essentially just stay on the floor and log, I wouldn't say heavy minutes, but like just significant minutes, 20 plus.
Yeah, and I just like I buy the footwork stuff with him too. Like I just like on both ends of the floor. Like he moved way better than I think that consensusly that he's getting credit for. But I digress, Jam. Do you want to go with another too high or do you want to hit a too low?
Let's hit a too low.
Okay. All right, you kick us off, brother.
And this is one that we talked about prior, but it is Alan Graves. I have him at 26.
Oh, okay, interesting.
At 26, and it's just like, man, like I understand the profile. The analytical profile is absolutely absurd. It's a pass, dribble, shoot. I think he's more of a big that plays the four as opposed to kind of like a wing guy that can play the three and the four, but brings that pass, dribble, shoot skill set. There's some legitimate feel that you like as well. And the defensive playmaking, despite not being the greatest athlete, he does know where to be in rotation a lot of the times, just has a nose for the ball. So there's a lot to like about him. I still just worry about kind of the overall athleticism and shot creation. But then again, like he's not going to be really asked to create for himself like that or really run pick and rolls. It's going to be spot up, play pick and pop, getting out in transition and hit open shots. And what 6'8", 6'9". So I could be very, very low on him, and I understand why people have him in the lottery. And if he gets called in the lottery, which I pretty much kind of expect him to do on draft night, I would not be surprised at all, and I totally get it.
I have him at 23, so like I've
Okay.
come up on him a decent little bit. Obviously like him a way more than you, at least by 3. Um, what do you think of this comp? Because this is still an NBA player and a guy who played in the NBA for a long time. The minivan, Gorgeous Nang. What do you think of that comp for Graves? Is that crazy low? Am I lowballing him?
I think that's interesting. The body type is, I think, maybe just a tad bit different, but it's not like Graves is this ripped type of guy, or if he's like, but as far as like the speed and the craft, I think that's definitely very similar. Yeah, I can definitely see that. That is a very good comp. Do you see that the type of career that he would have and kind of the role as well? Or do you think there's a little more starting upside?
I think that's. I mean, what's a floor and a ceiling anyway, Jim? I mean, we don't know. Like, no matter how long people do this stuff, people still don't know how to do floors and ceilings. And this is me too, right? So, like, I'm going to raise my hand, but like, is Yang like a pretty safe floor for him? Like, do you think that he has like, what's the probability that he has a worse career? Do you think?
Yeah, man, like you
At that size, the shooting, the feel, rebounding, like if I
yeah,
could guarantee you that he was Yang, where would you draft him this year?
top 20. Top 20 makes a lot of sense, especially if you kind of hoping the peak years are better. I'm kind of looking at some of the stats from Yang now, like Philadelphia 21-22 season. That's
People are laughing
9.2
at
points
this comp
per
too
game.
because people don't know floors and ceilings like I do. Apparently, Jam. I'm just obviously having a little fun here, but I mean that's an NBA player for a long time, man. Like you draft a career NBA player in the 20s, that's a win. You're not getting all stars year in and year out at this spot.
Yeah,
Like that's what I'm saying. I have him 23, and I think that's a pretty safe floor for someone like that. He is going to be successful in the NBA, and playoff teams are going to want him to come off of the bench.
yeah, absolutely. And if you're going to be someone that's going to shoot upper 30s with that size, you can attack closeouts, make plays. It's like, what NBA team does he not fit on? So it makes a lot of sense.
Shane, if he was Shane Battier, this dude should get drafted top 6 in this year's draft. Yeah, I, if he could do anything close to what I saw Shane Battier do, I would be significantly higher on him. I'm sure you would be. I'm sure you would be too. Um,
Yeah,
I think he's such an interesting guy though because in a vacuum, it's easy to nitpick like the stuff that he doesn't do well. But
yeah,
if you just talk about the skill set that you're like confident in, being 6'9" who can shoot, rebound, and play make,
yeah.
it's a pretty good skill set, even if he's not the best defender in the world. I don't know. That's a good one. That's a good one. Do you want a high ranking too low or a low ranking too low for me, Jam?
Let's do too high.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna do a too low, but do you want like
Oh
a
no, go
big
ahead.
fish too low or
Oh, yeah. Let's
a
get a
small
big
fish
fish.
too?
Let's go a big fish.
You're gonna love this one, Jam. Cam Boozer. I'm afraid I'm too low on Cam Boozer. I have him, as you know, Jam, I have him 4, and I'm ready for the comments. And I'm not doing it specifically for the comments, right? I mean, you know why I feel the way
Yeah,
I feel about him,
yeah,
Jam. But I see all the offensive stuff. I see all the offensive stuff, and I agree with all the offensive stuff, with the exception of being able to just to go and get his own shot whenever he wants. Like, that's where I disagree. I think if you look at Darren Peterson, I think that he has the skill set to go and get his shot whenever he wants. Same with AJ DeBounce. And then I love the upside of a Caleb Wilson. I'm not saying that Cameron Boozer does not have an upside by saying that I like the upside of Caleb Wilson. And I do like the athleticism of Caleb Wilson a lot. And I think that he's very good at getting to easy shots. And I think that he's just scratching the surface of how good that he can possibly be. And that's not Cam Boozer's fault. I do worry about the defense with Cam Boozer. I don't know how well he's going to be able to defend. And I that's a big deal for me in the front court position. I'm more easily able to forgive a point guard for being bad at defense than I am like a 4 or a 5 at being bad at defense. And I know that he showed in high school that he was a capable defender. And I know that he had a lot on his shoulders at Duke. And he was essentially, you know, the Nikola Jokic of his team. But he is so smart, man. I've always been one of these dudes that values like basketball IQ and intelligence.
yeah.
But he just so happens to be in a class where I think the other guys have really good basketball IQ. So I'm worried that I'm a little too lower than him or lower on him. Like, if you have him 1, I get it. And obviously anywhere between 1 and 4, I understand it. I feel like I might be a little too low on him, and I think I might be giving him too hard of a time on the defense, even though I do think that is important at his position. I do think I'm giving that a little too hard of a time. And I do think that I'm putting too much emphasis on his ability to go and get his own shot, because I don't know if it's ever going to be necessary for him to be able to do that, depending on where he goes.
Yeah, oh, man, a lot of great stuff there. You see, have him at 4, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get it, but I just couldn't go Caleb Wilson above him. I understand a lot of the upside tied to Wilson. Most of it, I think, is maybe really due to the athleticism and some of the shot making. But I just think the floor with Cam is just so much more higher than Caleb Wilson, especially from an offensive perspective as well too, and to be able to create for others. And we both like Caleb Wilson's playmaking too, but he's not the passionate playmaker that Cam is well too. And I just think that floor is just so much higher. And I still believe in what the ceiling could be for Cam as well too. I am a believer in what the shot making could become. I think it's going to be more so of him getting to his spots in the mid range. I don't think that's going to be like, hey, I'm always in isolation on the wing or anything like that. I think it'd be mid post, face up, those type of things. And I think he'll get a chance to run pick and rolls more. And I think that'll allow him to be able to show more of his offensive versatility. So I think just that type of stuff, there's more shot creation in him for that. And the handle's not terrible. And I think it's a level above functional. There's some creativity and craft there as well too. And he's a legitimate shooter. Like, he's going to space the floor. He doesn't want pick and pops. You're going to have.
That's my favorite thing about Cam is how automatic he is as a floor spacer. I love it so much. You're going to have to
come out and contest that. He can attack, close out, make plays for others, So the offensive package, I think, is incredible. And on the defensive end, when we started the whole cycle, I was just saying, man, like, I think all the top of the guys at the top of the draft class, from AJ to Darren to Caleb, when we were talking about him in the top 5 mix potentially, and then also, of course, Cam, I thought they would all have potential to be plus defenders. And as we got through this cycle, I don't see that with Cam anymore. But I still am a believer in the tools. I know you were just saying you have defensive concerns, and obviously the tape shows that. and that makes a lot of sense. I'm buying the feel, the IQ, the strength, the length, and the quick hands that he's shown. And the last thing on his defense, I think some of that was him trying to stay in foul trouble. Obviously, him getting beat on a perimeter and the feet looking slow has nothing to do with staying out of foul trouble. But there were moments where you can tell that he was kind of backing off, maybe not really engaged in the play or physical in the play that he needed to be, just trying to stay out of foul trouble because of how much Duke really needed him.
Yeah, and again, if I'm just being objectively fair, regardless of position, I know that there are several guards in this class who I've given that same line of thinking for. But man, I don't care about defense as much as the guard spot as I do there. And it's just really hard for me just to be like, okay, this is exactly what I'm getting out of a player like that. But even guys can get better too. And that's the other thing that I don't know if I'm giving Cam enough leeway for the projection piece with him as opposed to just the production, because I'm giving a lot of projection to Caleb Wilson. You know what I mean? In comparison with the production. And for Cam though, there's weird just movement stuff with him that has me a little bit worried, where I don't have that with Caleb. And that's why I think I can project more, is just because there's, in my opinion, just better movement stuff with Caleb Wilson too. And unfortunately, this might drive some people crazy, right? There's not a number I can point to. There's not a color coded chart that I can use to quantify or correlate this or anything like that. But I just sometimes, dude, in the NBA, such an athletic league. Yes, it is very smart and it is also very physical, but it's still a very athletic league. And that's why, I just have him one spot lower than another dude who is going to play the same position. I still like him very, very much, but at the same time, Jam, I think I might be a little too low on Cam Boozer.
Yeah, and then you have him at 4-2. I know that also goes down to a different tier for you as well. And I think just for me, that first tier, although the order is different, I think Cam is still in that first tier with AJ and Darren, and then I just have Caleb in that second tier along with Michael Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I do hear the tier comment, and at one point I just wanted to just put them all in the same tier, but I just for how I watch the game, that would just be disingenuous. I value what Darren and AJ can do on the perimeter, to me, and it's way less questions about how they can be the offensive engine of a team as opposed to the other two, so that's why I have the tier break. I don't know how far apart these tiers are. They're just two different colors on my spreadsheet. I don't know how severe the tier separation between the two is, but I just value what the top two have shown over the course of time, as go and get bucket guys, if that makes sense.
It does. Let me ask you this. If Cam is having years, let's just say Cam is going to be a 20-plus point per game scorer his whole career, and there's years when he's averaging 24 and 25. Regardless of if it's looking like he's a high level shot maker or shot creator, I should say, if he's making shots and being efficient, I don't think it should matter what it looks like, because 25 points is 25 points, whether he's a shot creator or not. So that's kind of what I look at as well too.
Yeah, and in a vacuum is how I have these. If I knew where he was going, that would probably greatly enhance where I would put him on my board. But I look at how I evaluate, I'm going to put all these dudes on a terrible team and they are all going to be the number one option. That's how I'm looking at it. That might be a fault in my own philosophy, but I'm going to put all these guys on a really bad team as the number one option. Who do I feel most confident in putting in the worst situation? You know what I mean? That's how I kind of look at it. But Cam could have LaMarcus Aldridge's career, and play next to a Damian Lillard and put up Hall of Fame level numbers and be just like deadly from all over the court without even having to go and get his own shot, So I'm aware of that, just like I am of that with Caleb Wilson, who I've recently compared to Amari Stoudemire. And I love that comparison just because he could really complement another lead guard just like Amari did with Steve Nash, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. Like I've had so much fun like trying to really kind of figure out where I am as a scout within this year's draft class.
Yeah, and I think this draft class at the top, it really makes us think, and there's a lot of depth in here. I think it's overall this class is one that I think is going to be very important for us as evaluators to really learn from. And then I saw Brick Ripsaw, Cam will never average 24 to 25. And maybe not, we'll see. We'll say this. Kevin Love had 2 seasons where he averaged 26 points a game. The others were mostly like high teens and another 20. Like, and I'm not saying that's going to be his career, but I just see a season or two where he could really reach that mid 20s, I think, in his peak. That's not what you're really banking on. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be mostly around that 20 and 10 or so, but I do think that is in within them, but we'll see how that goes. We'll have to circle back to that in the next couple of years, Brick Ripshaw.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to look like a smart person, just bet against every NBA draft prospect, and you'll have some wins on there. All right, so Jam, that was my too low. So I have two too low, or we both have done two too lows and two too highs. Do you want to do another too low, or do you want to go back to too high?
I'll do another too low.
Okay, who you got?
For me at number 30, I have Joshua Jefferson. Like
this is a good one. I didn't pick him, but I like where you're going with this.
He's come up for me a little bit, especially after measuring better than I thought he would at the combine. 6'9", just under 6'11" wingspan. I was a little bit worried he was going to be mostly in that 6'8" range, possibly even 6'7". So that was concerning for me. But when you talk about someone that was 17, 7.5 rebounds per game and nearly 5 assists per game, like he is someone who is built to come in and do a lot of little things on top of what he does as a passer. Like he's someone that had multiple triple dubs, I believe, this past year, flirted with them a lot as well. Dirty Dancer, so physical and smart. Absolutely. It's just the athleticism. If he was more athletic or taller and maybe a little bit more center size for you, then I think like he's pretty much a guaranteed lottery type of guy. But just the IQ, the field, the passing, he shot 34.5% from 3 on 3.1 attempts per game. So he is someone that can stretch the floor, and I'd love to see that. And the shot does not look broken at all. So if he is someone that can space the floor, be a playmaker for you from different areas of the floor, run short roll stuff for you, DHOs, and just be physical and smart, it's like, man, why do I have him at 30? So like that's can it just be all the athleticism there? It's just like, man, like, and I'm someone who really values that kind of intersection of size, feel, and shooting ability. And Jefferson has a lot of that. Whether you believe he's a high level shooter or not, I think the shooting is going to be reliable enough for him.
And see, that's where I kind of diverge from you. I have him lower than you. Like I have him in like that mid 30s range for me. And the biggest reason why is the shot. Something that, Maxwell and I used to talk about on the show was that you got to beware the guys who in their last year of college like show that they can shoot a little bit. This goes back to like Kobe Brown, what he did, at Missouri before he was drafted, right?
Justin Anderson, I hate to go on my fellow Wahoo, but he was one for me that I remember really shooting later in his career, and it didn't quite pan out.
And it took him this long to get good at shooting at college range. We know that the NBA range is going to be even further back, so that's where I'm a little bit different with you, Jam, is because if he can't shoot, going back to the athleticism portion of his game, I don't trust him to go out and defend fours on a full-time basis. And he's also just not big enough to guard five. So that does put him in kind of a weird tweener spot. And then, like, even the playmaking stuff, he's good at finding his teammates at a standstill with a dribble. Like, I understand. It was funny. I was talking about Jefferson on the Detroit Pistons podcast that I was on the other night. And because they were talking about him potentially being a target. And one of the questions I was given was like, well, yeah, if you look at the pick and roll ball handler numbers, it was fine. And I said, yes, like in terms of being a quote unquote ball handler, because he literally had the ball in his hands, that's one thing. But one thing I'm reminded of is for guys like a Dylan Jones, the guys who could handle the ball, get to their spots, but is very physical, like shouldering back into you to shield the ball away. Like NBA defenses are going to be able to make digs at that ball and rip it away. So I think that it's just kind of easy for the special qualities of Jefferson to really kind of get negated in the NBA. And he just, like, if he was big enough to play the five, it would be a completely different conversation. I think that I compared him a little bit to B-Ball Paul. Like, at a certain point, you definitely draft a guy, and B-Ball Paul, back to my point with Niang earlier, if you could guarantee me that he would be B-Ball Paul, I would probably draft that at the very back end of the first round. But I have so many questions when it comes to the rest of his game. And that's why I'm more hesitant. But to your point that you just made, I typically am one of these dudes who does value size, feel, and skill. And I still just can't get there with Jefferson.
Yeah. Do you think the defensive playmaking and that kind of physicality that he brings, is that enough or potentially enough for him to overcome some of the athleticism concerns on the defensive end, kind of being a tweener there? And obviously he's going to have his issues, but if he can do enough there and he can give you what he does on the glass and on the offensive end as a passer and just general play finisher, I think that could be enough to keep him out there. What do you think?
It's hard for me to have a definitive yes, and that's why I have him ranked where I do.
Yeah.
Like, if I felt confident that he could defend out in space and like be a consistent, be out there all the time guy, I would have him out there. But look at someone like Jeremy Suhan, who coming out of Baylor, younger, right? Probably a little bit more athletic. We like the playmaking. He was a great defender, great rebounder. The Spurs even wanted to run him at point guard at one point in his career, right?
Yeah.
And he's had a hard time making the league. And I don't think that Jefferson is as athletic as what Suhan was. I think that he's probably a way better processor of the game. And maybe that's like the ultimate deciding factor for what it should be for Jefferson. But, if I could try to put myself back to how I thought about Suhan before I knew what I know now, I was probably pretty high with the upside of him, like as a playmaker, you know what I mean? Coming out, especially at his age. Now with the benefit of hindsight, like I think that it's like easy to be like, yeah, he's a better playmaker than Suhan, but I don't know. I just think that's like with us kind of already knowing what has happened with him so far.
Of course. Last question, at least I think right now about Jefferson, unless something else comes up. But better playmaking big, him or Mara, in your opinion?
If I'm being honest, I'd probably say Jefferson is a better playmaking big, but I don't even know if he's a big. Like that's kind of the hard part, Like I don't know, man. Like it's tricky. It just playmakers in general. I think it's Jefferson, but I don't know if he can play the five or the four defensively in the NBA. Like that's why it's so hard.
Yeah, I don't have as much of a concern as you about him playing the four. The five, absolutely. I wouldn't even really try to do that unless it's a small ball type of situation and calls for it. But I think he's definitely a four. Don't feel comfortable about him guarding threes and kind of the creativity of threes out in the perimeter. But I think he can switch and give you some things there too. But I think it's much better at the four.
Yeah, I got you. Let me go with another one of my two lows, and I'm playing the jam hits today. I'm gonna go Cam Carr.
Okay.
I have him at 18. And I know that that is not very popular right now. Like if we could identify like who the popular risers are kind of postseason, I think Cam Carr is one of these dudes, Jam, that has risen up the consensus rank.
Yeah,
Now
especially
that
after the
basketball,
combine.
yeah, especially after the combine, but after like the games have stopped, I feel like he's gained a lot of steam.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite comps that I have for him personally is Devin Vassell.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. Even though he's a little bit shorter, his wingspan is ridiculous. I think that he
Yeah.
could tie his shoes laying flat on his back in his bed. You know, like that's how long his arms are. Um, and I do know he's like a world class athlete. I do like
Yeah.
the shot blocking stuff that he does. I like that he can gamble and still get back in to contest a shot. You know, and the shot is what it is, man. Like it's beautiful and it goes in consistently. But and he clears the magical 180-pound threshold too, which is a big deal, I guess, for me this year. I just don't know like the the passing stuff with him. Like I don't know how good of a playmaker he is going to be on the perimeter. I don't know if I trust him to get out and get his own bucket, like being chased off the perimeter in the NBA. Like I think he's going to be one of these dudes who's going to be able to get bumped off of his line pretty easily, depending, obviously matchup dependent, but I think more times than not, he's going to be someone who can get bullied off of his line. I know that he's going to be a reliable floor spacer. I think that he is, even though he's a world class athlete, I think that he's going to get kind of like erased on box outs and stuff like that to a certain extent. But I think that I might just be kind of picking at him a little too hard because he's a 3-and-D wing with good size, man. And like, I know Cedric Coward is bigger, but Cedric Coward should have been drafted higher than where he went, even though I had him at like 9, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Cam Carr at 18, and I think I might just be picking on him a little bit too much. I think I might should have him closer to like that 14, 15 spot.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I've been a Cam Carr fan for a long time since early in the season. I currently have, and he's going to finish with my touching the board again. And I stopped looking at it and thinking about changing it, but I have him at 12.
Okay.
And as you talked about, just under 6'6", under 7'1" wingspan, the positional size and length there. It's a smooth 3-and-D role for him. Translation there. Absolutely fluid shooter, does it off of movement in transition, spot ups, contested, all of that incredibly repeatable as well too. And I like him that he's not just a play finisher as far as the shooting goes. Obviously, the athleticism is there too. So he gives you that dual threat as a play finisher, can fit really on any team. I think he's someone that can come and help you right away, despite still being a little bit light. Seeing him at the combine, I actually liked his body better than what I saw on film. The shoulders are broad. There's some mature muscle there. I do think there's somebody that can get up close to right in that 200-pound mark. I know he has some ways to get there. I think like 15 and 20 pounds, but I think it's reasonable for him to get there. But if you throw him in there on any type of team, be able to space the floor, run around defensively, he does have to kind of clean up some of the defensive fundamentals, but he is a guy that's going to be very, very disruptive. Has a knack for blocking shots on the perimeter too. You know, that's something that you can't teach. I kind of found that guys just have a knack for being able to block shots and time shots on the ball with this length and athleticism. And you've mentioned the self-creation. Is there more to tap into there? Because that is really what the upside is going to be there with him. Can he take another step as a handler in combination with the strength? And if he can, then I think there'll be more upside to tap into there. And one last thing, the Vassell comp, I like that a lot too. I think Mikal Bridges, that type of same family, makes a lot of sense.
Just not as tall, you know, like, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like why I
Mm-hmm.
can't get there with like some of the bigger names because he is shorter, right? Like, and the wingspan is going to make up for a lot for him. Like,
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
get that, I get that point, but like Bridges has the wingspan and he is as tall as he is. You know what I mean? Like Carr is great. Like that's why personally I feel more like that Devin Vassell. a little bit closer, but I get what you're saying. And to
I
your
think
point, like
Bridges listed at 6'6", so he's right there. I think Vassell may be 6'7", but he's right there with Bridges though.
I probably have them backwards in my head, and I don't know why. There's probably 2K height listings, to be honest with you. That's what sticks in my head from being a gamer. But yeah, I mean, then the wingspan is there, the shooting is there, the athleticism is there. I just maybe he could be like Bridges and be put in a spot in Phoenix where he kind of like, hey, let's see what you got with the ball in your hand a little bit more.
Or even
Like,
New York, like where he's just that
yeah.
complimentary guy. Like I need you to knock down shots, attack closeouts, get out in transition, and like anything that you give self-created is gravy for us.
Yeah, but to what I was saying is like I feel like he learned that skill in Phoenix. Like it was put in that spot a little bit more frequently, and New York obviously like took advantage of that progression there. All right, so Jam, I think we both have given two too lows a piece and one too high a piece. I'll kick it over to you. Do you want to go with your last too low or your last too high?
I will go with my last too low.
Okay.
And that's Jayden Quaintance at 20.
Let's do this. I love it.
I think more so because of the health for me, and I'm sure a lot of other evaluators, that's why he is this low. But it's like, all right, even if you have to redshirt him, the risk is probably going to be worth the reward if you feel like he's going to recover medically and you have an all NBA caliber defender right there. But it's like, man, I got this still at 20. Even if the offensive game is still a little bit clunky, mostly going to be a play finisher. There's a functional handle. But like there's times, especially if you go back to Arizona State, I feel like with him, you had to go back and watch the Arizona State film. He will flash a little something, but a lot of times it's like I lost it in the lane or it's over dribbling, but you see the flash. So we'll see if there's something that he can develop to be able to more comfortably handle and in tighter space, or at least be able to attack space and get in the stuff and bump and score, similar to how we see Steinbach do a lot of that when he has the ball and be able to attack space, bump, and score. But yeah, when you get someone like Quaintance, especially if you don't need him now, you can afford to let him get healthy, and you hope that athleticism and that trust in his body gets back. Like I think 20 is going to be way too low, but it's like, what is your appetite for that type of risk versus reward?
Let me ask you. I'm going to ask you a few questions here, Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Before this year, are you aware of any sort of injury history that JQ had?
No.
Me either. I'm not either, right? And I would say that what he did this year, like I understand that he came back and played and then got hurt again.
Maybe too early.
Too early. Like I lumped that all together as like one injury, right? He's already shown that he's been on the court, and like I get that he landed on his good leg in those videos. I get it, and I understand that. But in our most recent mock draft that we did, Jam, we got to a point on the board to where I'm like, we know like this dude is gonna play basketball again, right?
Yeah,
like
it's not over.
Like he's not done. He's gonna play basketball again. And Jam, let me ask you this: what's scarier to you, back injuries or leg injuries? If you're a basketball player.
Ooh. Oh, man, that is tough. I'll say leg, but man, they're almost as equally as terrifying. But I'll say leg.
Personally, I would say back injuries,
That's
right?
fair.
Like,
Yeah.
and what did we see with Michael Porter Jr., right? Went from being like the number one prospect within his class, hurt his back to the point to where like when he was drafted on draft night outside the lottery, there was how many talking head shows did we see where it was like, look at the way he's walking, he's hobbling, he's never going to be able to play basketball the same again.
He may never run again. Yeah.
He may never run again. And listen, Michael Porter Jr. has missed time in the league due to injuries. Still, he has still won an NBA championship. He has still been a very, very good player, like on both ends of the floor, and NBA teams still want Michael Porter Jr.
Yes.
And this is my thing with Jayden Quaintance. It's like I get that we're afraid of drafting him. Like if you're in the top 10, don't take him.
Yep.
But if we're getting to like the teens, and this is the point that I made during the mock draft. Let's say that the Memphis Grizzlies like magically land Cam Boozer, which could happen, but let's say the Memphis Grizzlies land Cameron Boozer with the third pick, okay? And they valued him as the best player in the draft. So they've already won the draft by taking Cam Boozer, who arguably, according to some people, could go number 1. They get him at 3, so he's already won. Then a team, yes, I get that Zach Edey is injury prone and misses time. Ha ha. Like I get it, right? But you get an all defensive quality talent, which everyone will agree that like he's the surefire, like he's the closest thing that you could pick to an all defensive level talent within this year's draft. You get him at what they have, like 16, I think is what they have within this year's draft. You get him at 16 after you've already got Cam Boozer and you need front court help on this team. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not going to be ignorant here. I understand why people are afraid. But, like, this dude is going to be able to play basketball again. And even this year, coming off that first injury that he had, Jam, there were still moments where he showed that, like, insane, like, power twitch combination that not very many people in this class have. He might be the only one. And for the people who say that he doesn't have any offense, disagree. Like, he's a play finishing big man. That's still a very valuable skill set. And he knows how to make plays with the ball in his hand, which is very much required in the NBA today. He's going to shoot? No, but that's okay. Like, there's a lot of dudes in the NBA at the 5 who can't shoot. Okay? I just think that people are so afraid of the medicals because he's really the only one that we have that is like a medical red shirt, so you got to throw him down your board. It might be scary, and I understand the fact that I'm not privy to the medicals, Jam. But if we know that he's going to be able to play basketball again, and I have 2 picks in the first round, like, why in the world am I not going after JQ?
I was just thinking the exact same thing. You're absolutely right. He makes perfect sense for one of those teams that has 2 first-round picks and is going to be useful on there, whether it's OKC, Charlotte as well too. And then when you creep down later in the draft, it's like the Lakers really could consider him, for that spot. I know they probably want someone that can play right away, but something they really have to consider. The Knicks losing Mitchell Robinson more than likely. That's someone that could potentially step right in there too. So, yeah, there are a lot of spots that make a lot of sense for him and reasons why people will want to take him higher than where I have him at 20.
Even at 20 with the Spurs, like, did we watch Luke Cornett play center this year in the playoffs? Like, even if you're afraid that JQ is going to miss a little time, take him at 20 if you're the Spurs and you're already set with your young core, right? Like, at some, like, it's going to drive me. There's a potential that him falling down the board could drive me crazy. And, like, again, I understand. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't know that, like, NBA teams are making millions of dollars in investments. But if you can afford, like, if you are set with your team and you can go and get someone like him, it makes too much sense. All right, Jam, I'm going to hit you with a too high because I want to end on my too low, a little bit more of a happier theme. And please don't tell anybody else at No Ceilings, guys. Please, pinky promise, because I'm probably going to be in trouble with this one. Zuby Ejiofor. I have him at 21, so I'm not super duper high on him like a lot of other people at No Ceilings are. But am I just like so enamored with Morez Johnson Jr. that I see Zuby can do some of those same things but smaller? And I do think that the size difference between the two is important. And I also think that Morez has a way better chance at spacing the floor than Zuby. I don't know if Zuby ever shoots ever in the NBA. I think Morez might be able to. But Zuby does a lot of good things. Like good rebounder, good defender, really explosive mover. And a pretty good decision maker with the ball in his hand, Jam. I don't know where you stand with Zuby in terms of your ranking or whatever, but even at 21, there are a few people who I could still probably feel comfortable putting over Zuby, but I just think at a certain point you do have to value the defense, the size, and the feel that he has.
Yeah, you certainly do, and I'm actually lower on him than you are, but I would imagine
Okay.
we're, like, right around the same tier. I actually have him at 27.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a little bit low, but like you were saying, he brings so many different things defensively, and he's rocked up, explosive. Like the physicality is not going to be any issue for him in the league, despite being a little bit undersized at just under 6'9" as well too, but has that 7'2" wingspan. A little bit of an underrated playmaker, not a hub by any means, but can throw the skip passes and can be more of a connective passer than anything as well. Get out in space and defend. There's some defensive versatility there too. Zuby, yeah, I don't see him as a starting big, but I certainly see him as a potential high level rotation player. I just think there are a few other bigs that I like a little bit better. Someone like Terrence Reed Jr., I think who can be a starting and has some similar qualities to him as well. But there's a lot to like about Zuby, but I don't think you're too low on him.
That's good to know, man. I don't want to dig into him too much
Mhm.
because, like I said, I know that we got a lot of people at No Ceilings who are really big on his game. I like him, obviously, but I think at 21, like I'm not going to be surprised if there are guys who I have lower on my board that have a better NBA career than he does.
Yeah.
Jam, the last person that you have is your last too high. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm just wondering. It's a guy that I like a lot. I've been pretty bullish on him for most of the year, but I'm just wondering, am I too high on Bennett Stirtz? I have him at 15. That is
Do you want to
pretty
know who
much
my last too low guy is?
was it Bennett Stirtz?
Bennett Stirtz. We did not plan this, and I have him at 20.
I love it.
So
I love
that's
it.
so funny. We should
Yeah,
start a podcast.
I know, right? I think it would be a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
Like,
that is so funny, guys. I cannot emphasize enough that we did not plan this like at all. This is amazing.
your
These are
Sturts
my show notes if you want to see people. Like that
not
that's
much.
how prepared I was coming into this show.
Sturts a fantastic year moving up and playing at Iowa. And there was some concern, like, how would he thrive in the Big Ten? Like, what's going to happen there? Will the numbers go down? Like, will he struggle? And he pretty much put in 20 points a game, 19.8 points, shot 35% from three, a dip down, through his normal kind of shooting numbers, but he's still an excellent shooter. He won't have to carry nearly the same amount of usage. He was averaging nearly 40 minutes per game, too, just carrying a heavy, heavy load. But I just love Sturt's ability. He's at just under 6'4", 6'6" wingspan. I thought he measured better and tested athletically better than what was expected from him, and I think it's a huge positive. But someone that can obviously space the floor, can run pick and roll, and there's defensive instincts. He's not going to be someone that you're going to look to be like, all right, I need you to shut this guy down or really defend at the point of attack, but he can play passing lanes. There are quick hands. There are things that he brings to impact the defensive end. So I like Sturtz a lot, pretty much a lighter grade. I'm just wondering if that's too low for him. Excuse me, too high for him. And I know you feel like you're too low for him.
I'm wondering if I'm too low at 20 because
Yeah.
if people like what they saw at Drake this year, a lot of like the efficiency stuff is pretty identical to what he did
Yeah.
at Drake
Yeah.
last season. And people will be like, "Oh, okay, whatever." Like, but he did it at Iowa, and this was not a fantastically run Iowa team. Like, I was super big on Alvaro Folgaris coming into the season. I thought that these two had the potential to be like the best two-man tandem in college. I realized I was redundant there, two-man tandem. But I thought that they could have been the best duo in college basketball. And he did so much like for Iowa to be relevant. Like drove them to the tournament. And he was the number one scout, like, on Iowa with a bullet. Like, if you stop Stirtz, you stop the team. And he still performed at a very respectable level. And I've talked about this on the show before in a few other like spots that I've done, and I've talked about it with you, Jam, with Abuko Okori. What did Jeff Teague say about guards coming from like lower major schools or like even places where like they're the only option? Like, life gets easier for them in the NBA because they're being defended ethically, if you will, and it's not 1v5 in the NBA for him. It's 1v1. And like, people are concerned about separation. You know, it's a good thing they run a lot of pick and rolls in the NBA too.
Yep.
And if he's opposite of another playmaker, he is a really, really, really good 3-point shooter.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like, to your point, if he's a defensive, like just a pest at best, like he might not be like the most impactful defender, but if he can go and do his best, and please listen to me, people, when I say this, defensively, if he can do his best Steph Curry impression defensively, I think that NBA teams would be thrilled with that at his size, right? So
yeah.
I think that he's so smart. He thinks the game so well. We're giving all these other dudes in this draft class like so much love because of how intelligent they are. Stirtz is right up there with them. He's a pure shooter. He's a pure scorer and an awesome playmaker. And he's always been in a spot where he's had to carry more than what he should. Like, we've never seen him in an ancillary role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we've never seen him play off of other people. And I'm just curious to know what that looks like. And it could be like, oh yeah, this is like, he's very, very smart and very talented. Maybe he should have gone higher than the 20s, you know?
Absolutely. And we've talked about in the past, like Detroit next to Cade being a great fit, next to and in Minnesota as well too, you know, being able to take the load off of those type of guys with his ball handling and can run pick and roll, and obviously the spacing that he's going to bring too. I thought Brazil Popular had a good question talking about
I'm trying to
Sturt.
find.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comments in here, and shout out to the chat too, by the way. You're saying
Always
Brazil
appreciate
Popular.
y'all. Yeah, he was just saying that with the Iowa pace, do you think that he would have that Bennett Stirtz, that is, we have a tough time playing in a fast-paced tempo? I'm right there with you. I don't think so either, and I think exactly what you've already said about him. It's because of his feel and his processing that I don't have any type of concerns about his ability to play at any type of pace. When you can do those things, you can process at different speeds and everything like that, and you have that feel for the game. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about that.
Yeah, and then Brazil Popular in the chat says lower usage, his defensive effort can improve. I'm with you on that. B Ripsaw, who's on fire in the chat, by the way. Stirtz is Jimmer for debt. I disagree because Stirtz likes to pass the basketball too. And then
I like Sam Merrill though, as maybe as a potential one of his comps, some shades of Sam Merrill.
Yeah, and then does Sturt need the ball though? Can he play off the ball? I think that's one of the points that we made earlier, Jam, is like, we've never seen it. So, and I've been talking about this recently as well, Jam. Like, I feel like so much of, you know, scouting now with the internet community, it being involved and as vast as it is, there's so much value put on production, and we don't want to think about projection because it requires more thought, you know, more bandwidth, you know what you're looking for. There's more imagination and creativity involved with projection, as opposed to like, okay, in this one draft year, this is what this one player did. This is all they're going to be able to do for me moving forward. How much can I value this? I think that so much of what I see with opinions on players now revolves around that sort of a thought process. Yeah. I think that he could be pretty awesome playing off of others. Like, even though we haven't seen it, like, he's a very good shooter. He runs for days. Like, he is an unselfish guy too.
Yeah.
Very imaginative. Like, I look at him in an offense, and this is why, like, I'm singing his praises, and I have him at 20, and this goes back to a point that Dirty Dancer said. I probably can't find it. It might be up a little bit too high. Oh, here we go. Bennett is great, but this class has elite after elite point guards, though. And again, this is what we're looking at now, right? But Bennett might be one of the most ready-made to contribute point guards in this class. I think that outcome is very, very real. Like, I love Abuko Corey. I have him 11th on my board. If you had me pick to put one on the court today to go win me a playoff game, I'm probably picking Bennett Stirtz because there's a long game that I'm playing with a Corey. But if I have to put one in the playoffs to help win today, probably picking Bennett Stirtz. And that probably says a lot about where I should have him on my board.
No, that's real. And I Brick Ripshaw again. I'm loving everybody in there. Colin Gillaspie, I think that's another good shades of a part of his comp blend.
My cousin.
Yeah, just the playmaking, the shooting, namely, that he brings, and be able to be another ancillary handler as well too. And we just saw Gillaspie, was it yesterday, signed the 4-year, $48 million with the Suns. So he's obviously shown his value and what the Phoenix franchise thinks about his ability to be with them long term. And I want to ask you about this.
Sure.
I feel like these two guys do very similar things. Where are you with Stirtz and Christian Anderson?
Stirtz and Christian Anderson. Okay. I have Christian Anderson after Stirtz.
Okay. Yep. Same here.
I think by a few points, but within the same tier. So I have them both like similarly ranked, just lower relative to the other guys on the board.
Okay.
Like I think in the NBA, I trust Stirtz off of the bounce a heck of a lot more than I do Christian Anderson.
Really?
To do like everything that a guard would need to do. Like shooting off the bounce, probably Christian Anderson, but like creating out of pick and roll, advancing, and like making life easier for other people, I think I trust Stirtz more than Christian.
Gotcha. I thought Christian was just, not to take away from either one of them. I thought Christian was absolutely fantastic, sliding over full time to the point guard spot, showing his ability that, yes, I can do this too. Like, I can make plays in the pocket, skip passes, and things like that. I don't have a strong lean either way as far as like skill for skill in that manner. I just thought they were both similar to how I feel about Philon and Flemings. I think they offer a very similar profile with some key differences, but I think a lot of it's relatively very close.
Yeah, and to Dirty Dancer bringing up this point, one of them has a green room invite and the other one doesn't, right? So NBA's it's so hard because like if I did what I think NBA teams are doing, like my board would look a heck of a lot different. Like NBA teams mess this stuff up too. Like very, very smart people watch just as much, if not more film, or probably have more access to more resources to talk to more contacts about these players. Like, and they still mess it up, man. Like this beautiful part about the draft. But Jam, those were the last. It's funny that you and I both wanted to end on Stirtz. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can end it there, but I'll kind of filibuster a little bit for any questions that people might have in the chat. So if you're watching live on our YouTube channel, first, thank you so much for doing so. We're approaching 26,000 subscribers. So if we got you here, please hit us with a sub and a like. But if you have any questions, please feel free while you're watching in the chat to fire some questions off if you have any. Like, it doesn't have to be about any of the players that we just talked about now. It could be about whatever you want. But Jam, how you feeling coming up to the draft, man? I know that we got some live streaming that we're gonna be doing for day 1 and day 2. You and I are gonna be a part of day 2, and we got Maxwell is gonna be there. Yeah, we're trying to grab some guests too. But you do got a question real quick.
It's a great question. I appreciate that one too.
Norrin, why don't you want to ask me about where I have Nate Ament on my board? But Jam, where is Nate on your big board at the moment?
Appreciate that one, Norrin. I ultimately ended up with Nate at 14, so just right there at the lottery. I still am buying that combination of him, being 6'11", the pass dribble shoot skill set. Didn't shoot nearly to his capabilities, but I still think that he's going to be a reliable shooter. Maybe not that 40% type of guy, but I think mid to upper 30s, given the rest of his skill set, is very, very possible. And I'm hoping that he ends up in a place like OKC where he can kind of learn. Is not too much really required upon him. That would be kind of like ideal for me for him to be there. I think one of my biggest concerns, not even with the shooting, I think they'll iron himself out. The defense is what I was most disappointed about, or just maybe just really concerned. I guess this point may be a little bit too strong, but he showed more of that defensive playmaking on the high school level than he did on the college level with Tennessee. On the high school level, he was much more of a factor as a weak side shot blocker and then passing lanes, things like that. And I don't think that like he's gonna be. I never thought that he would be someone you can rely upon to be this weak side shot blocker and rim protector, but I thought he was capable of doing it. Like he's 6'11". If I saw it over, I can test and do those things. So that was kind of my biggest concern, even more so than kind of the shooting and other things offensively. It was more to that defensive end. But I say that to say, I think in a place like OKC, they can bring a little bit more of that out with him. And I just feel pretty good about him at 14. I understand why some do have him in the 20s because of the shooting concerns and whatever their kind of perception of him to start the year as like this primary creator. That's not exactly what he showed. I never thought that was his game. And the last thing that I'll say about Nate, I definitely think like that Jabari Smith Jr. at the ceiling, or like Patrick Baldwin, what we thought we potentially had in Patrick, and I still do like something that Patrick has done. So I think he's much more in that type of mold, and I think that's very warranted. At 14 in the back end of the lottery.
Brazil Popular brings up a good point. Did were we supposed to be talking about Nate Mint or Nate Biddle? I'm going to defer to Nate Mint.
Yeah.
But I got a question asked from Norman Rad, the Silver Surfer
Mhm.
himself, asking about Darius for me. I still have him 5. I have him and Michael Brown Jr., who, Jam, it's really strange like how many like big media people are so much lower on Michael Brown. Like I'm seeing like very respected people who have like very like popular draft outlets have him like barely in the lottery, and
Yeah.
that is kind of
Very
confounding to me.
surprising.
But yeah, for Darius, I still have him 5. I still love the combination of scoring and playmaking that he has. Really good shooter this year when a lot of us didn't think that he was going to be a good shooter. I think he's better away from the ball than what he's getting credit for, even though that question is being asked about other guards who were at a similarly ranked as him.
Mhm.
He ranked really well scoring off of screens away from the ball, handoffs, things like that. I'm still I'm still about as high as I could possibly be on Darius A. Cup without being a homer, if that makes sense. But what about I'm just gonna call you Sid for short here. Sid in the chat says, when is the
You're
draft gonna
good.
begin? It's gonna be Tuesday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern each time. If you come over here on those ceilings though, I know Tuesday the Tylers, they're gonna be doing like on day one, like a day long streaming marathon. So that's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting. They're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, asking questions if you guys have them, and they're going to be bringing guests in as well. Jam, this question is interesting here.
Yes. I'm
I'll throw
glad
it
you
to
picked
you.
that one.
Is Alex Caravan a first rounder?
For me, no, but, and I'm talking out of both sides here, but I would not be surprised for him to return first round value. You're talking about someone with positional size at 6'7". I think close 6'8". He's not 6'8". Can obviously shoot the heck out of the ball, knows how to win. He will compete defensively despite athletic limitations. He's physical, he's tough. He's someone that you can throw in to a rotation right now and expect for him to shoot and be able to be a smart playmaker on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I am. I'm right there with you. Like I don't have him in my first round, but I have him in the same tier as like some of the back half of the first round guys. I think that he brings a lot of desirable traits to an NBA team. I just think that I might be more willing to swing on some more higher upside guys, though, with the level of contract that I could be getting him on.
Mm-hmm.
But he's very capable of making us all look foolish here.
There was
Norn Rad.
one.
Oh, please go ahead,
So there
Jam.
was one earlier that I kind of just made a note of. That was interesting. I'm sorry I forgot who said it. But Sinak or Vasar, like who did you have higher, and
Ooh.
how do you kind of? Yeah, I know that's what I thought about both of them. I thought that was a very good one. So let me make sure I write that one down.
I have both of those guys in my second round, and I know that that's not a
Ooh,
popular take.
it's certainly
And
not.
I have them. I have them like back to back, Jam. I have them at like
Okay.
35 and 36, I think.
That's
And
so
like
hilarious. I have them at 24 and 25, so they're back to back for me, just in different levels.
it's interesting too. And like I don't know which one. I mean, I know that I have Sinak ranked higher just because of the upside, but like other than rebounding, like you have to do like a lot of like wishing and hoping that he gets better at so much more of his game to where
Sinak, you're talking
I'm
about?
yeah for
Mhm,
Sanak, and I feel like I could lean on a lot more of his high school priors and feel like pretty confident about it.
mhm.
And that's ultimately why I have him higher is because I think I do buy the shooting potential with him long term.
Yeah,
I did like some of the defensive flashes that I saw, like him guarding, AJ DeBonsa in the matchup between Houston and BYU. So I think that he's a fluid mover. I think that he got coached really hard in Houston, and he
and he
improved in a
wanted it
lot of.
too.
Yep, he sure did. And I just to be that big and not be that good of a rim protector, that's kind of like a big deal crusher for me. And even though he is a good shooting prospect, I don't know how I trust him as a decision maker with the ball in his hands, like string a
Mhm,
play along. So that's where I could understand like Vasar being ranked higher is because I
yeah,
feel like you can have an offense sort of run through him to a certain extent. And he also shot the ball pretty decently well for a big
he
man
certainly
prospect.
did. Yeah,
And I think that he's a better defensive mover than he gets credit for, but that's neither here nor there. I have them very, very close.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I have them in the second round just because I'd rather go after some other prospects. Jam Norn Rad in the chat said who or asked who will be the steal of the draft. Who do you have tabbed here?
Man, there's so many. I think especially you see how we get late and some guys can slip. Uh, I'm gonna say one of my steals. I'm gonna go with Isaiah Evans. Oh man, we just got the Isaiah Evans comment in the chat too about him being
Let's
slept on.
go.
That's hilarious. So I'm right there with you, BCW. Yeah, I
Malik
think
Brown
it
is in there.
keep good with the Duke love. I love it. I'm just with Isaiah Evans, arguably the best shooter in the class. He does it at 6'6". I believe the wingspan is plus. It's off of movement, stand still, deep range, contested. The confidence never changes. It's an infectious energy that he brings. He's become a much more physical and aggressive attacker too, off of closeouts and pin downs as well too. The defensive effort and playmaking and just that engagement was better this year too. There's a lot to like about him, and if he lands in the right spot, let's say like the Lakers, if it's not a center that they really like, you put him next to Luca, this guy is going to eat next to Luca and Austin, and especially LeBron for the 1 year, 2 years, how LeBron's going to stay. He's going to be there and hit shot after shot after shot and just be an electric shooter and score for that team.
I love that. Man, there are so many good comments in the chat right now
The
on
Wilkerson
who
shout out, I like that.
I do like the Wilkerson shout. I can't shake Aaron Nkrumah out of my head
Yeah,
as being a possible steal within this year's draft, just because I mean, pitbull defender, good shooting promise with him moving forward, like constant upward trajectory as a shooter. I'm probably gonna go Malik Thomas. Probably
of
not surprising
course.
people. Probably not surprising people. I just can't shake the feeling though, Jam, that like it's not even the Arkansas thing so much as it is the Calipari thing. You know, where it's like the second or third guard in a Calipari system almost always, man, like almost always has like some underlying skill set that they didn't show within their 1 year playing with Cal because they had to do something different than what was asked of them. So I think that it's going to be, and Norrad in the chat says Arkansas. I promise it's not even the Arkansas thing. It's solely the Calipari thing. He could have been at Kansas doing this, and I would say the same thing. They were just, him and Darius Acuff both recruited as point guards. We know how the story went. Malik had to do so much off the ball stuff, and he succeeded at it. I could just see like him being the steal, and it's like, how in the world did we let Malik Thomas fall to the mid-20s because he was just a floor spacing prospect? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about so many sleepers on day 2. I'm super excited about that. That's where we make our money and really like to get in the weeds with stuff. Just throw another guy out there. Like I said, I probably have like 10 guys. We won't get to them all.
Yeah.
Just want to throw one more out there. I know you have a lot of guys too. I'm going to say Tyler. I always forget how to pronounce his last name. Is it
Bilodeau?
Bilodeau. So you can't second guess myself. Bilodeau, just out of UCLA. This is a knockdown shooter at 6'9", just under a 7'1" wingspan as well. Too shot 46.4% from 3 on 4.5 attempts per game. And I'm just always in the belief that size and shooting gets you paid, and that's something that I would really bet on. The ball skills are functional. He just has that positional size, knockdown shooting, and the hope is that he can, I guess the prime illustration of this type of guy is like Sam Hauser. Can he do enough to stay on the floor defensively and just be a dynamic shooter on the other end with size? So I think that's kind of the profile for him.
I'll throw out another one, and I won't dive into it a whole heck of a lot, but Jacoby Gillaspie.
Yeah,
I really like him coming out. I really like him coming out of Tennessee. Playmaker, shooter, irritant on the defensive end despite his size. I think if a team gets him in the second round, like he could be one of the bigger steals within the second round too. Paris 4141 in the chat says just joined. Thank you for coming. He asked, who do we have at number 1, Jam? I think we still both have the same guy, but why don't you go ahead and share?
Darren's been wire to wire all year for me. Darren Peterson.
Same. I have Darren Peterson as my number 1. I entertained AJ, was really the only other guy that I've given some sort of thought to at the number 1 spot, and I still think like I've had Darren like my number 1 for most of the season. I would not feel good if I was an NBA team passing on AJ Debonsa at his size and everything that he could project to be, just because like he's already so far advanced for like the player of his archetype offensively than like what he should be. And there's almost like a level of safety to him from what we saw this year that I think NBA teams could probably kind of like talk themselves into. But just no other prospect like wowed me play for play like Darren Peterson did. Like there was stuff that he did this year that had me feeling like no other prospect in this class ever made me feel this year.
And then to think about that, like for the wide majority of the season, that he was not completely healthy and fully confident. And this is still what we got. Just an absolutely dynamic two-way shot creator. And I would still say playmaker, although we didn't see his full playmaking capabilities and prowess for a variety of different reasons. From the roster construction, play style, all that jazz. But yeah, there's so much to like about Darren Peterson. I feel very, very good about him at number 1, and he's just under 6'6" as well. It's not like he's 6'3" or 6'4", so there's some size with him too.
I want to ask this because I think that like this could derail the rest of the podcast, but I'm willing to take this chance, Jam. Yeah. Mike G15 in the chat says, do you really trust Darren Peterson to push through things in an 82-game season? I guess I'm more confused on why there are people who would think otherwise. If that makes sense, Jim. Like, he could have Shaden Sharped his way into being the number one pick this year if he wanted to. You know, like he could have been like, "Ow, I'm hurt. I'm out with an injury. I'm not gonna play anymore this year." I don't know if there's another prospect, maybe other than Jayden Quaintance, who faced as much like adversity in a season as Darren Peterson did, and he put up a 20-point season on good efficiency. Yeah. And this is a bad season for him, you know? So like I personally feel like in the NBA he's not going to have to worry about like navigating a draft and like stock preservation and listening to all these other camps try to potentially steer him in the decision making that's ultimately going to be best for him like in a draft cycle. I just think that when it gets to the NBA, he's allowed to kind of be just more all business and go out and do whatever he wants to do. And I haven't heard of a single thing from an NBA team from like the intel that we get. I haven't heard a single like concern to that degree. Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to like push through an NBA season.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much, obviously, because we have a data point and him going through the creatine and cramps. Some people fully buy the story, some people fully don't. Some guys are evaluators are in between somewhere. My thing is with that, it was not anything like the knee, the back, it wasn't ligaments or anything like that. It's a cramping situation that they have to figure out, especially at the level as he described it. As long as that is figured out and there's no side effects from that, whether it's physically or mentally, which I think is very important to be able to trust your body and things like that. I think that there's very little to worry about. Like he still, as you pointed out, Steven, he was out on the floor. He could have shut it down, never really looked to do that, came out there and competed. And this has not been something that's been in his history. Like you talked about with JQ, this has not been a long-term issue with him, whether it's injury or a lack of competitive fire and spirit. That has just been never a knock on his game. So I think that's a little bit of a narrative that was really overblown. I think Kristen Peak, when she came on the show, I really appreciate her joining us. Her talking about that and just kind of that being the media curation as well too. She was right on point with that and kind of shared why as well too. So I'm not worried about Darren, any type of injury history and the cramping and all. He is my number one overall prospect, and I feel very good about that.
Likewise, brother. All right. I'm not. Oh, hang on. As soon as I say something, Sonny K. Stephen Gillaspie, you're doing a live watch along during the draft. While Sonny K, yes, we are. Pay attention to No Ceilings NBA on social media. Like I said, the Tylers are going to be on day one. They're going to be doing like a whole watch along that you can do over here on the YouTube channel at No Ceilings NBA. And then obviously like that's going through the night at 8 p.m. Eastern when the draft starts. The second day, we're probably not doing a watch along marathon like all day long, but we will still be here to cover. We'll probably go early, jam probably about maybe like a half hour early, just kind of like field questions, count it down, recap some of the things that have happened, some things that we're looking forward to on night two. And then on night two on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern when the draft kicks on, we'll give our reactions, share some takes. I already have like I know of a guest that I have invited on that's going to come on for very excited for a time amount to be determined. We don't know yet, but we will be here in terms of like Jam and myself will be here on night two. Maxwell will also be joining us, and then like I said, I know of at least one guest that we're getting. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be recapping some of the picks that we like in the first. We'll be talking about best players available. We'll be talking about skill sets that some of these second rounders are going to bring because, like you all know, if you're watching the Draft Sickos, you already know this, but like there's still going to be talent to be found in this year's draft, even in the second round, despite NIL trying its damnness to make sure that that nobody good is going to be available in the second round. There's still talent
trying to kill the
available.
second round and an undrafted free agency, you know. But yeah, we're gonna find our ways. There are always guys that slip through the cracks on the margins year after year after year after year.
That's right. All right, so folks, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for asking the questions. Thank you for being available to follow us all season long. We're in the home stretch now. If you're watching live, we just got a couple of days left, baby. If you're listening next day, it's draft night eve, and we're so excited at all the stuff that we have been working towards is right on the precipice of us now, and we're closing in on it quickly, Jam, and could not be more excited to see what this draft looks like. And then we got Summer League, and I know a lot of the team is going to be out there too. So almost away, almost to the end of the cycle. But Jam, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to you, man. Anything you want to plug, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Just always appreciate everyone in the chat, just all the supporters, everyone in the community that we have. Like, we can't grow and do this thing without y'all. Get a little sappy here, but just appreciate all of that, all the love y'all have shown both of us, and Steven guiding me through this podcast journey and having me on Draft Sickos. So I really appreciate Steven. And we're just excited to really cap everything off with this cycle when we get the draft day, you know, with day and 1-2 streams with no ceilings, and then very little sleep for a lot of us. I know some of us probably take a couple of days off from film and then it's right back into it. And some of us really already grinded the 2027 film. So we got a lot more stuff coming just because the end of the cycle is about to come to a close. That doesn't mean it's over for us and the content that you'll get from us.
That's right. That's right. NoCeilingsNBA.com. We have our last mock draft that we are going to be publishing, I believe, Monday. And then right before the draft kicks off, we're going to have our Intel mock. So for you guys who want to know what we know on the inside, if you're a No Ceilings Plus member, you're going to be able to get that information. But don't tell anybody about it. Like, be cool, you know? Like, just, you're going to get some information. Just hold on to it. Don't go spreading it around. But NoCeilingsNBA.com is where you're going to be able to find that. We do our war rooms and stuff like that. People love those, just listening to us argue and bring up different points and perspectives as to why we think certain players should go different places. So go ahead and do that. No Ceilings NBA on all your socials. If you're watching us here and you're still watching, there's a few of you. I see you. I see the live count. Please hit that subscribe button. It does wonders for us. You guys have already helped us get pretty much close to 26,000. We want to get that number up. And hit that bell so you know when we're live to cover the draft that's coming up in a couple of days. But for my co-host Jam here, for the rest of the No Ceilings team, for the basketball community at large, we have been the Draft Sickos. You guys have been awesome. And we will catch up with you all next time. Much love, y'all.